Hi everybody, welcome to part 2 of my videos looking at BuzzFeed's apparent definition of white privilege. I started off looking at my own results from the How Privileged Are You calculator, the links are in the description below, and then I went on to talk about the first 7 points of the 17 deplorable examples of white privilege, also by BuzzFeed. The link to this article is also down below in the description. This video is probably going to be longer than part 1, as there are a further 10 points to go through, and some of them really could be deserving of a video in themselves. If the interest is there, I may go into them in more depth at some point in the future, and also you've got to remember that these are just little windows into my views on these points, so if you do want me to expand some more, please feel free to state in the comments, tweet at me at 9levelsdeep, and I'll see what I can do. So, we are starting on number 8. White privilege means no one questions why you got that really great job. It's assumed you were just highly qualified. First of all, a great job isn't necessarily the one that requires the highest qualifications. A great job surely is a relative thing. I mean, I like working with animals, my best friend likes working around books, my husband wants to either write or paint miniatures. A really great job is something that you love doing. My nan even used to say to me, you never work a day in your life if you are doing something that you enjoy. Secondly, if you are surprised that a person who isn't white has a good job, then I hate to break it to you, but you're a racist. Last time I checked, the person who arguably holds the most important job in the Western world, and therefore some might say the best job, is black. If you're surprised by that, rather than being surprised that he got elected as President of the fucking United States, despite there being a whole lot of racists out there, then you are an idiot. Number 9. White privilege means not having to worry about your hair, skin colour, or cultural accessories as the reason you didn't get a job. So you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. If you get the job, white people are to blame. If you don't get the job, white people are to blame. How about this? If you didn't get the job, maybe it's because you weren't the most qualified for the position. Not every single employer is fucking Justin Trudeau. If you really think that you didn't get that job because of your racial background, then maybe it's a fucking good job that you didn't get hired. Would you really want to work in an environment that is inherently racist? Ooh, what about this? Try to stop thinking that you are being victimised by literally everybody who you come across. White people might not get a job for this exact reason. Equal opportunity quotas are a fucking ridiculous fact of life at the moment. So, if you're going to moan about not getting a job because of your culture, while simultaneously moaning about getting a job because of your culture, then you really need to take a step back. You need to take a deep breath. And then you need to examine yourself. Figure out why the fuck you have decided to try and become a professional victim. Number 10. White privilege means you don't have to worry about being monitored in a store just because the hue of your skin is a bit darker than most. You have no real idea who is monitoring you in a shop, be you black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Chinese, Japanese, any denomination at all. There is this crazy technology that captures your image and it transfers it to a screen that can actually be viewed remotely. CCTV. Everybody is watched all the time in a store. It's just the nature of things these days, I'm afraid. Number 11. Having white privilege means that people will never label you a terrorist. Have you ever heard of the IRA? The Aryan Nations? The KKK? They're a big one. Let's not ignore the fact that I'd say it's pretty clear that the majority of this whole BuzzFeed list is geared towards how awful white privilege is for black people. But when it suits, it will swap to people of a more Asian persuasion. Number 12. White privilege means not being affected by negative stereotypes that have been perpetuated and ingrained so much into American society that people believe them to be fact. Ah! America is the whole world again. If you are so dense that you will assume that a person is any less evolved, I suppose, purely based on their skin colour, then guess what? You're a racist. And anyway, what about the idea that all white people are privileged? I think that's a negative stereotype that has been perpetuated and ingrained in American society. Number 13. White privilege means that you never have to explain why cultural appropriation is a bad thing. Okay, why is cultural appropriation a bad thing? How is it different from cultural appreciation? Why is it called cultural appreciation when a social justice warrior does it, and cultural appropriation when someone who isn't an SJW does it? And how about this? How about people stop saying that there is no such thing as white culture? I could point to, again, travellers, like I did in my previous video. I could point to Paris, a place commonly heralded as the most cultured city in the world. I could point to Bangers and Mash, Toad in the Hole, Fish and Chips. Shut the fuck up. Number 14. White privilege means not having to worry about being stopped and frisked. Well, that's just simply not true. While it is common knowledge that minorities tend to be more likely to be stopped and frisked, that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen to white people too. Now, personally, and I know this might be a really unpopular opinion, I do believe that the race that you are should come into the decision for a law enforcement officer to stop and frisk you. The same way that I believe that your age, your behaviour, and current world events should come into that decision. I mean, I'm pretty sure an 88-year-old woman will have a statistically lower chance of being in possession of something illegal, so why waste the resources in stopping her and frisking her? I am not saying that black guys should be frisked all the time. Oh, by the way, I am saying that there should be a more coherent method behind the stop and frisk kind of decision. And despite black people being largely targeted by these laws, white people do also get stopped and frisked. It is really not something that happens exclusively to minorities. Number 15. If you benefit from white privilege, you'll never get told to get over slavery. 1. Who the fuck would say that to a person? Cut that bitch out of your life. Number 2. Don't blame me for something that I haven't done. I didn't enslave your ancestors. In fact, my ancestors include circus performers, personally, who were exploited by the guy who owned them. And that's the white side of my ancestry, not the Chinese. 3. Have you been enslaved yourself, or are you angry with people who are long dead on behalf of people who are also long dead? 4. I know slavery still happens in the world, and that is a harsh, horrible reality, but we do and have fought battles and wars over this whole concept. We, as a society, as an evolved society, or however you want to put it, think slavery is wrong. So, join in with us on that. Slavery is wrong. We know it, you know it, so move past it. Number 16. White privilege means you're never just your own person. For example, Nicki Minaj is often referred to as the Black Lady Gaga. I guess black people can't be quirky or eccentric. I've never heard that comparison being made before. And I really do think that whoever made that comparison in the first place is a bit of an idiot. A deaf, blind idiot. But you know what? Get over it. Famous people are compared to other famous people all the time, and if you, as a non-white person, are getting compared to a white person, maybe it's because, shock horror, you've culturally appropriated them. See? That kind of works both ways. Plus, I believe that being compared to another person, even if they don't identify or whatever, as the same race as you, isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, look at it this way, the less integrated, I suppose you could call them, people will try and find an anchor to make themselves feel a little bit more comfortable around someone who isn't of the same race as them. People usually need to find some sort of hook to become friends regardless of their race. It might be easier for them if they make a familiar comparison. It's all part of doing away with segregation. But I forget, a lot of proponents of the hashtag Black Lives Matter movements don't actually want to do away with segregation when it really comes down to it. Overall, I do think that this is a complete non-point though, and the example that is used is just shit. So in conclusion to the tick box, I am white. I'm going to say that I think white privilege is complete utter bullshit. Get over it. People are people regardless of their race. They all have hopes, dreams, aspirations, all that stuff. So stop making it an issue. I mean, go mad, combat actual racism, go crazy doing that, but don't for a moment think that white people have this magical barrier around them that stops them from being marginalised in society. And don't think for half a second that championing the idea of white guilt is going to get us as a society anywhere at all. There is a reason that you are being called the regressive left. This right here, this is one of them. So, I have been 9 Levels Deep, and thank you very much for watching part 2 of my white privilege rant. So like, subscribe, comment, and come find me on Twitter and Facebook. I will leave some links to them down in the description. Mad!